my quick 10-second summary of Wartales is that it's good. Like, really, really good. Even if you don't have friends. Even in early access. However, you have to like strategy games and you must like pain. Kind of one of the requirements. And you have to be okay with starting over at least to your last save. Or if you've enabled the option to freely save whenever. We'll get into that later. Quick second to ask for a like and a subscribe, and if you don't enjoy the video, tell me why in the comments. Now back to the review. Sid, do you believe in the heart of the cards?
Sometimes.
Only sometimes?
Uh,
Uh, so he said there was undead in there, right?
those wolves are spectral wolves or something.
Okay, let's not. Uh, so I'm just going to summarize exactly my thoughts and experiences with co-op since the update has released. I haven't played the game before the update, and I haven't plans on stopping playing after. I'm going to continue to keep playing this game. The co-op update actually has 100% thrown me on board with the game. This project and the developers, it's one of the few games that I've actually joined their Discord to keep up to date with content patches and seeing what the rest of the community is feeling about the game. It's actually kind of surreal now that I think about it, because that's not something I normally do. Anyways, it is wholeheartedly one of the best experiences I've had in the last 6 months. And video games, and particularly right now, is a very good distraction from life. However, I think this game is perfect to start the new year off with an interesting twist on what a classical adventure can and should be in video games. Now, Wartales is not particularly hard on normal difficulty if you've played strategy games before. If you've never really played a strategy game before, you might want to drop this one down onto easy. Kind of a big jump for a lot of fresh strategy players. It's a 4X game, like most of you know, but this isn't just a review over the game itself, it's a review on the co op. So let's talk about how co op makes things easier and harder, sort of. Co-op does this weird thing of taking half the focus and attention span you would have on your entire party and then literally cutting that in half depending on how many players you have in your party, which could go up to 4 players as of today's video. But I don't know about you, but strategizing as 4 players to take on a boss or a group of enemies, that could be a challenge within its own right. It's like too many chefs in a kitchen. So there's maybe 1 hour of rough learning controls, seeing what the game is like, and that was all in co-op. 1 hour. It took 1 hour to learn how to play the game in co-op. But I'm sure if you tried to learn this in single player and you had no one rushing you and you had time to read the tutorials and pop up and not, had less distractions as one does when playing with others, you could probably pick up on how to play the game a lot faster than starting off in co-op. But that's part of the fun for some people. However, co-op can be kind of a hassle within itself when more brains are starting to tackle the same problem. So the first thing a player should do before playing co-op is probably try to play the game the first 2 hours by yourself, because this game is long. It takes time. It's not something that you can rush through within an afternoon. The first 2 hours is a very good learning step for everyone before you jump into co-op. At least that's my personal recommendation. If you have fun trying to learn everything together, by all means go for it. I just think the first 2 hours, if everyone played the first 2 hours, at minimum the first hour, it would probably be a much more enjoyable co-op experience for everybody involved, at least for my experiences. The real problem with co-op is that there's too many chefs in the kitchen. I don't know about you, but 4 players trying to strategize on how to kill a boss or a group of enemies can be kind of hectic. That way, after all of you guys have done the first hour by yourself, you've learned the bare bones and the concepts. You could carry all that experience with you into a co-op game, and you could experience the new features and story points together past that 1 hour, 2 hour mark, and that's where the real enjoyment of co-op should be. Now, so far, I've only talked about the discouraging parts of co-op. You might be scared. It's like, oh wow, is co-op really for me? So far, one of the more positive aspects, and I say so far because I'm an idiot and I can't read a script right. Okay, restart. So I've talked about discouraging parts of co-op, but one of the more positive aspects of co-op has been just the ability to take your party and split its attention in half. So what do I mean by that? If you're focused on two characters and your partner's focused on two characters, that's a lot less work for yourself when you had to focus on four characters in solo. So, for example, I focus on my two characters, these are your two characters, and we're in the middle of the fight. You know how to play those two characters a lot better than you know how to play my two characters. And you can synergize with that, and you can take down bosses much, much easier instead of trying to think about the whole grand picture in single player. Now, this being said, the biggest thing about co-op is that you must be in voice communications for this to work. If you're not in voice communications, things are quite almost impossible. There is a in-game text channel that allows you to type out what you want to do, but I don't think anyone thinks that's a good idea in a strategy game where a loss could mean a potential loss of the character for the host's save. Now, thankfully, you can just revert back to the beginning of the fight and try again. And depending on what save mode that you have set up, whether it be normal or free, you have to check in the options, which is a little annoying. There's a little question mark right next to the save description. You have to read that. I didn't know that at first, so I thought I could have as many saves as I want on my first playthrough. That's not how that works. One little quirk about the game, but we're talking about co-op. So if you have that option set up and you can save as many times as you want, not so big of a deal. But if you can only save once, that means you can only save back to the previous save. Now you can keep overwriting the same save, but then you keep pushing that risk further and further and further until you realize, oh, hey, like 3 hours ago we did something and now we can't go back and fix it. We gotta live with our choices, which can be fun within its own right, but it's not for everyone. So make sure you know what your save settings are. So because of the way the save system's set up, I actually have three separate campaigns going right now. None of those games are tied together, that you can't transfer characters or things like that. But it's important to note because only the host, whoever's hosting the game, has the option to save and load the game. So your friends cannot load on a campaign you've been playing for the last 2 weeks and like derail it because he got upset or something like that. That can't happen. Only the host of the game can load and play the game with the people that they invited. I don't know if you can invite other people on into the party. I haven't tried testing that yet, but if you do know, let me know in the comments below. Now, speaking of cooperative party splitting, splitting up resources within the game is a very unique topic for cooperative games, especially in games with a little bit of a survival aspect. It is so much easier to manage in co-op than it is by yourself in a solo game. I have to worry about which character is always going to be doing cooking, which character is always going to be doing tinkering, which characters are always going to be doing one thing or another to keep track of their stats. I have to make sure the right character is selected for the right profession as well so they can get the right stat bonuses. It's crazy. It's nuts. Like, so for example, the miner gets an extra constitution because they're mining like iron or something like that, right? I probably want that on my tank versus having it on a archer because archers don't use constitution. They're not getting hit all that much, but tanks will get hit all the time, so they probably want extra constitution. However, if I want extra, critical chance bonus on one of my characters, I need to make them the tinker because the tinker gets 2% more crit. Just small things like that that can end up stacking up over the course of your playthrough over a longer period of time. That gets so much easier to handle in co-op because you just have to ask your buddy, "Hey, what do you want to do?" "I want to be the cook." "Okay, take all the food. Now you're the cook. You can do whatever you want with it." I mean, in single player, you have to track your food, you have to track your money for all the different companions and their wages and whatnot. In co-op, that kind of gets split. Everyone still has to pay wages on the same day, but you do not have to worry about how much wages you have constantly throughout the entire course of the game because you and your buddy are able to know, hey, my three guys total up to 56 crowns and yours total up to, 75. Well, add that together, that's how many crowns that we need. Since we all share the same coins and we all share the same food, it's not too terrible. We just got to make sure that we're on top of making sure we're getting constant jobs. We're going in the forest to kill boars and get some food, or making some bread. Yes, you can make bread in this game. It's as simple as just getting two different items and throwing them in the cook pot. But I didn't know that when I first started my solo playthrough, because I let my co-op buddy handle all the cooking, and I didn't know how to do it. So I had to learn a whole new profession when I started solo. But that's one of the beautiful things about co-op, is that there are aspects of the game you just straight up don't have to worry about if you don't want to. Hey, we're kind of low on food. Oh, wait, never mind. We have bread right here. All right, we're fine. It was a real unique learning curve when I was playing in solo to find out, oh, wait a minute. That's where we kept getting all of our food from. He was making food from all the raw resources we were getting. This is actually kind of funny. It makes sense in the time, but I was not thinking straight. Thankfully, there is a ticker in the top right hand corner that says how much food you do have and how many days that food will last. And it only shows up when it's in a player's inventory. So this is why we threw all the food onto a singular person and not in the camp inventory, which is considered shared because the game doesn't track what's in the shared inventory. And speaking of which, let's get to the shared and inventory and how trading loot is shared. So, shared loot is done via camp storage that you don't have in single player. Well, you do have a storage in single player. It's a single container, but you can just keep everything in your own inventory. There's really no downsides. If there is, please let me know in the comments below. I do know you have to put stolen goods in the camp inventory and have your thief try to fence them off. That's it. So if there's anything else I need to know, please let me know down in the comments. All right. So, as far as co-op is concerned, if you want to transfer something from one person to the other, all you have to do is drag and drop it from your inventory into the camp stash. A nice little new button comes up that's right next to your bag icon that isn't normally there in single player. So you just have to hit I, and then you see a little chest icon. You click on that, and then boom, now you have another smaller box on top of your inventory. And everything in that little box goes into your shared space. All right, so taking inventory management to the side and whatnot, let's talk about the actual combat. The strategies of co-op are phenomenal. This is the real meat and potatoes of how co-op is. At least I'm enjoying it in Wartales. So coming up with abilities and strategies to work together and take down bosses is phenomenal, right? So for example, we're fighting different enemies in the battlefield, and there are different combos you can do for like the spear guy and a sword and shield, for example. All right, let's use that. The spear guy could set up a frontal cone in front of themselves to do a massive amount of damage and stop anyone who walks in front of them completely. They can't move anymore and they can't attack. So sometimes an enemy, the kind of pathing they're going to take is, oh, hey, that's the closest enemy. I'm going to attack that enemy. Your spear guy can be like, not so fast, buddy, and just set up a cone and run through that cone, and it completely stops and negates their entire turn. Very, very strong. Now, what your buddy can do is, well, what if they don't move? They're already in the cone, or they're not in the cone yet, but that you want them to be in the cone. Well, your co-op buddy can just take another character, run up to the guy, and with certain abilities can just push an enemy, like with the archer's pushback arrow, push an enemy into the cone, not only taking damage from the arrow knockback itself and all of its modifiers from one character. Now your spear character can hit another person that's not even on their turn because they've set up a attack of opportunity cone attack. And so now two characters are hitting one thing at the same time because your buddy pushed an enemy into your AoE. I mean, that's just one example. I mean, that's kind of cool. There's not even an XCOM really could you get that kind of level of cooperation, right? I could be wrong though. I'm not a huge XCOM fan. I wasn't a big fan of it, which is funny because this game is kind of like it in a way. But it allows you to set up this complete 1-2 combo on someone, and doing that in a co-op game and like you're just virtually high-fiving your buddy and whatnot. That's like the essence of what a co-op game is. And it's really, really satisfying when it happens, when you get a big, nasty, juicy crit and you see a big yellow numbers pop up. You're like, oh, you just annihilated this guy. Or you get a specific kill animation and whatnot because you're killing them. You just take the spear and shove it in their stomach and lift them up a little bit. Oh, it's beautiful and it's glorious in co-op. Now, granted, you could also do this in single player too if you thought about it, right? But it doesn't have the same, I don't know, zing that it does in co-op. And if I'm smart enough, there's going to be an example on screen for y'all to see right now. Unless I just don't capture the footage. So if you don't see that 1-2 combo happening right now, I'm sorry, I'm a piece of shit content creator. Don't you fucking censor me, Google Docs. What the fuck? Alright, sorry. It doesn't matter. Alright. So the point is, you could do some really nasty combos that could be easier to set up with a buddy, and you could do it by yourself, but it's much more fluid when both you and your co-op partner are on the same page and you barely have to communicate it. It's like, okay, I know exactly what you're doing. We're going to go with this without really having to speak too much. It's a very, very good feeling. It makes the dopamine flow. And because of how it feels, this game nails that cooperative engagement feeling. It nails it. It's so good that it's the whole reason why I made this video, and that I think it deserves your time and investment. This game nails it. It really does on a lot of different levels. And I'm not talking about the entire game at whole in general. And it does have its problems. I'm just specifically talking about the co-op. Well, what if you got here and you don't have any friends and you're just watching this video because you just wanted to know about it? Well, don't worry. There's an entire Discord, myself, or the games. You think you should use the games. I actually know you should use the games. My Discord is for dead streamers only. We tend to play games that are not like this. But the games Discord, you can join right now. It has a bunch of players. It's active. They're constantly talking, and you can definitely find some people to play with. And remember to be in voice comms, because remember, this game is almost unplayable unless you're in voice comms, because co-op with just text based can be done. It could just be kind of rough. I would set up some boundaries, be like, okay, hey, when we're in the city, you get to handle all of our shopping trips and whatnot, and then we just have to hit X, Y, and Z point so I can do my thing. That's something you're gonna have to work on. And I recommend 2 to 3 players. You could do 4, but it could be kind of messy. And as I said earlier, it's like too many chefs in the kitchen, right? 2 to 3 is manageable, right? 2 is very easy. 3 is a little bit more chaotic, but there's still some good that it can be done with 3 players. But that kind of brings me to my conclusion of the co-op review. It's not super hard. It's not super crazy unless you have friends who make it hard and crazy. It's the right amount of spicy with 4-player co-op on normal difficulty. But if you want a real challenge, hard is where it's at. That's that game can get kind of hard pretty quick. Bring lube. Bring lots of lube because they do not go in wet at all. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys like the content, like and subscribe. I prefer likes over subscribers because I don't have a set schedule because I'm a piece of shit YouTuber. Bye. I'm kind of just padding out the last few seconds of this video. Just as a kind of, you know, oh god, the video's over. But it's not over. Wait, there's still some left over. Let's skip this part, really. Because, oh, hey, wait. I missed some stuff. No, it's over. I'm not good at outros.